Let's start video 2 with the page 1. So remember, we put all of our pages together. We are going to start with the front, and the pieces that we need for the front are 7.5 by 5 1/4. That's not the right one. Let's see. Or yes, it is. Okay, 7.5 by 5 1/4. And we're going to need one that is 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. We're going to need one that is 8.5 by 2.5. That's for the front. And on the back of page 1, we're going to use one that is 4 by 8.5. and 2 that are 3 3/4 by 3.5. So whenever I give you the measurements, the first number is how wide. Okay, let's get started. All right, so let's start by, we're going to have a flap, and so I'm taking the 5 1/4 inch piece, and I'm going to place that 5 1/4 across the top of my scoreboard, and I'm going to score at 1/2. Let's move that to the side. Let's take our 8.5 by 2.5 inch piece. We're going to score with the 8.5 inches across the top at 1/2. Rotate it one time and score at 1/2. Score at rotate it one more time so the 8.5 inches is back at the top, and score at 1/2. This will become a pocket. Okay. Now this 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 piece, what I want you to do is cut it on the diagonal. So put it in your scoring, or your cutter, so that we're going to end up with 2 triangles, like so. Okay. And we're going to make 2 score marks, a 1/2 here, rotate it once, and a 1/2 here. I'm going to turn it upside down so it's easier. So we did not score on the angled part, okay? And we'll do the same thing with the other one. Score at 1/2 on one of the straight sides. And I'm going to just do it on this side so it's easier, and I'm going to score at a 1/2 inch on that side. I'm going to do that with this one too, so that it's easier. So 1/2 on 2 sides, not the angled side. Let's put the front together. So when I put this together on my page, I have the opening of my page on the left. Okay, I'm going to start with my flap. That was 7.5 by 5 1/4. I'm going to go ahead and burnish that score mark, and I am going to miter those ends. Okay, the 8.5 by 2.5 piece is a pocket, so we miter the top, and then the square in the corner we cut out at an angle. Let's see, I don't like how I scored this. I'm going to double check my measurement here. I want to make sure I cut it right. Go ahead and burnish. All the score marks. Ooh. Okay, so those 2 are done. And now these pieces, these triangular pieces, I am going to cut out the square at an angle just like I did on that pocket. go ahead and burnish those score marks. And you're going to see that there's a little bit of an overhang. That's okay. We're going to slice that right off. So there's a little bit of overhang. Just take your scissors and snip it off. Same over here. So we got a triangle. Do the same thing to the other one. Cut off the excess. Perfect. This front page is going to be pretty easy. I'm hoping that the decorating will make it look super cute, because I don't want it to be, when I give this to the person I'm going to give it to, sometimes if there's too many flaps and flips, they don't really know how to use it if they're not used to it. So this one will be kind of an easy design. All right, so what I'm going to do is take our small pocket, and that's going to go on the bottom of the front. So remember, we have our page open to the left. So let's go ahead and put glue on our 1/2 inch sections. Oh my gosh, I get so frustrated with this glue. Oh my gosh, come on. There we go. And let's go ahead and put it all the way down to the bottom, side to side. Make sure it's lined up. And when you're happy, give it a burnish. I do like to burnish. I don't want things falling apart. So I'll be putting a lot of mats in this book for pictures. Let's take the flap and our 2 triangle pieces, and before I put these on, they're going to go back to back like so that we can put some, let's see, do I like it that way or do I want it like this? Or do I like it like this? I think I like it like this. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so we're going to put glue on the 1/2 inch folds. And take it all the way, my 1/2 inch is at the top. I'm going to take it all the way to the bottom and the side. Oopsie. And that looks good. And put the other one on the same way. Bottom and the side. So then what's going to happen is we're just going to glue this on top of that front page so that it'll open, and then there'll be a pocket. So I'm trying to decide, do I want something here? I think I do. So let's go ahead and add 2 flaps. That's what I want to do. So let's make them, so they're going to be 4 3/4 tall. Let me add this to my notes here. And 1/2 of 7 1/2 is 3 3/4. Is that right? 6. Yep, 3 3/4. And then we have to add 4 1/4. So we need 2 that are 4 1/4 by 4 3/4, and we're going to make flaps. So let me get that cut, because I didn't do that either. I just decided to do it. How big is this? Perfect. So 4 1/4 by 4 3/4. There's one. All right, so let's score those, and I am going to corner round these too. So put your 4 1/4 inches across the top and score it 1/2 on both of them. We are going to miter those corners where the 1/2 inch was. And get your corner rounder if you want a corner round. Burnish your scores. And this thing I love and hate at the same time. I have to use it upside down, otherwise it gets lodged weird in here, but I'm going to use the 10 millimeter. So bring our flap back over. And we're going to attach these, and we don't want to go over the score. I think that's going to be just perfect. Do a dry fit always first. Yes. Okie dokie. I'm going to go ahead and glue those on first, then I'll attach it to the base page. All the way to the edge, all the way to the top. Don't want to go over that score. Let's do the other side the same way. So I've said this in some of my other videos, I kind of design as I go. I don't always have a plan ahead of time. I know some people map it out, they draw it, they write down their measurements. I just don't do it that way. I just kind of design as I go. Okay. So now let's go ahead and attach this to the top of our base page. And then we'll give it a good burnish when it's all together so it lays flatter. I'm going to turn it upside down. It's just easier for me that way. And I'm going all the way to the top. That looks good. So I'm going to open it up and burnish it and get rid of that extra glue that just came out. And then I'll burnish it real well. I can see that hanging out the side here. This one is hanging out the side. I'm going to trim it. Okay, now I'm going to trim this real quick before I forget. I don't like that. I'm going to use scissors so I don't screw up. I just have to lightly trim this top. I don't know if you can see, but it does hang over, and that cannot happen. So now I'm going to have to corner round. There we go. Much better. Now I don't see it hanging off the edge. Okay, so let's turn it over onto the back. The back's going to be fairly easy here. We're going to need 3 pieces. One piece is going to measure 8.5 by 4. 8.5 by 4. And then again, we're going to do 2 pieces, and those are going to be 3 3/4 by 3.5. So 3 3/4 inches wide, 3.5 tall. Let's go ahead and do our scoring. So with the 3.5 inches across the top, score it 1/2. Do that to both pieces, 3.5 across the top, score it 1/2. This is going to become a tall pocket. So with the 8.5 inches across the top, 1/2, rotate it once, score, rotate one more time, and half. Let's go ahead and get rid of the angle here. We're going to miter on the 1/2 inch. And on this one, it's a pocket, so we miter the top. Take out that square on the corner at an angle. Burnish these. Now I am going to be putting a thumb hole in my pocket. So let me show you what I'm talking about, but I'm not going to do it until I put my pattern paper on. So right now I'm just going to go ahead and do my burnishing. And I'm going to be attaching these on the bottom. Okay, and then I'm going to attach this to the page, and so it kind of looks stacked, layered. I want a thumb hole here in the center, but it's going to be easier to do that once I have my decorative paper on. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I still have to ink my edges on. I haven't decided what paper I'm going to use. I think I will use this. That's cute. And if the pocket is 7.5, I go a 1/2 inch, or excuse me, 1/8 of an inch smaller. So I'm going to do 7 3/8 by 3 3/8. So let me cut that real quick. Yep, and then I'm going to take a thumb hole punch there. So what do I want for the, what color should we, I think I'm just going to use my older one here, this sepia. And I'm just going to go around the edges. Give it a little bit of an aged look, I suppose. I try to cut a thumb hole here and then on here, I can never get it lined up right. So that's why I'm attaching it first. Oh, I better wait. I gotta attach these first so that I can cover up the 1/2 inch. Ooh, I almost forgot that. Yikes, that would have been bad. So I'm gonna do my bottom flaps first. Make sure they line up with the side and the bottom. And most likely I'm going to be putting a magnet on, so I'll do that next too. I was getting ahead of myself. They should bump right up against each other. Oh, for Pete's sake. There we go. Get rid of any excess glue that wants to ooze out. Okay. Very good. So now I'm going to use a different magnet. These are from Country Craft Creations too. They're smaller, but they are powerful. You add the adhesive on. They come with these little adhesive dots. So I'm going to put like so. And I'm going to put it about right here. Get another one. You take the backing off. Then you place this on there. It's got a sticky thingy. Then you're going to put another magnet on top to make sure that you have the right sides together. They're strong. I should have taken that off. Okay, let's close them. And like before, I'm going to put some, oh, that one didn't stay. Let's put some 1/4 inch score tape over it so it doesn't go anywhere. I haven't been using too many magnets lately. Okay, now I can put this paper on. It'll go like so. Take the backing off of that paper, score tape we just put on. Glue the back. Good there. Go ahead and burnish. You'll probably get tired of me saying that. I might end up, I don't know, maybe I'll put something on here too. Maybe I'll corner round these. I think they might look better corner rounded. I'm gonna do it while I'm thinking of it. Being as we did the other ones corner rounded, it probably looks better if we do it with those two. Okay. So now I'm going to get a circle punch. I'm just going to use a smaller one. This is a 1 inch. And I want to center it between these two flaps. And I'm just going to do a half circle. There we go. And I'm going to go back with my ink so that, like so. Now I can put that on the back page. So now it's open to the right. And I can just glue that down now, and then it'll be a good pocket for storing mats and pictures. All the way to the bottom. Look at it side to side. I'm going to open these up so I can burnish them better. Very good. That's what we have so far. That'll be page 1. I'm going to end up, like I said, putting some cute mats in there to add some excitement in this pocket. This will go up then. These come out. I bet it stays closed. Too much glue. I bet it stays closed without anything here. I might just leave it that way. And then on the other side. All right, we're going to move on to page 2. Before I move on to page 2, I thought I'd show you how I decorated this side, and I'm going to do something different on the other side or add to it. So here is what I have. Now these dies, I'm trying to go through my stash and use my dies more often, and so this is just a gift package die that I had, and I don't know where I got these dies, to be real honest. So I have Christmas Wonderland written. I have the 2 bows. I made these little pockets so that these little 2x2s would slide in. And then I just put in one of the cut aparts in the back here. Okay. So nothing fancy with the matting. I just go 1/8 of an inch smaller. But on this side, I decided on my last design team kit, I received these uniquely creative metal dies, and I know they're in high demand, and it's the ones that you can buy the folio to go with, the rectangle, and then it's got these real pretty ornate pieces in it too. And I thought, well, I'm going to use these as part of my flaps and flips and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to make it work. So what I did was I used one of them and I cut it out, and now I trimmed it so that it would be a 1/2 inch taller so that I can score it at 1/2 inch and then use this as a flap. And so I went ahead and used this one then, because these are the same, and I'm just going to move this up a little bit like so that you can see a red border. And then I'm going to just tuck this piece under, and then this will be folded under, and I'm just going to add one of the cut aparts, I think, from the page. So let's go ahead and see how this is going to So I would need to score that at 1/2 inch. Okay, now I do not need to miter the ends because it does not go from one end of the page to the other. I'm going to center it. So let's go ahead and burnish this. There it is. And I will center this on my page, and it does go exactly to the bottom. All right, and so I've already inked. I think I'm going to put this piece on first, so that if I need a little bit of space between there, oh, actually it's going to be fine. Okay, so let's see how this turns out here. Let's put some glue on. And I did ink already. So there we go. Oops, sorry, my head. And now I'm going to glue this one, and I'm going to lift it up a little bit so you can see the red underneath. So go through your dies and see if there's any that you can use as a flat by just scoring it at 1/2 inch. That looks pretty even. And then I'll just pick a cut apart, or maybe I'll put those on there. Then that could become a little tuck spot. Maybe I'll do that. And then what I plan on, actually I kind of like that. I'm going to use the gold. So these were 3 1/4 by 3 1/4, tall and wide. So I cut a square at 3 1/8 and 3 1/8, sliced it in half. Those will go here. And then this is what I'm going to use underneath. So it'll look like so. And I do think I'm going to glue these so that they become a little tuck spot. That's what I'm going to do. All right, so now I'm ready for page 2. Okay, as I move on to page 2, I am kind of, I would suggest now to watch first, just in case I were to make an oops, because I'm designing as I go. So what I'm going to do, because I used that die on this page, let me show you. I just tucked this behind there. Because I used this die and I liked the look of that, I'm going to do, I'm going to use the die again on page 2. So this is on the front of page 1. This will be on the back. So then this is what, I'm going to use the die on the front of page 2. Okay. So once again, I am going to use this one from the Uniquely creative dies that I have, and I just cut some out in red. Okay, so I didn't measure quite yet, but I just did. I knew I was going to do like a waterfall kind of, so I cut them out, and I guess I could measure them for you. This one ended up being from the longest point here, 6 1/4. That one's 6 1/4 long. This one is 4 3/4, and this one is about 3 1/8. Okay, so I just kind of eyeballed how I liked the look of it. So these are going to be flip pages, and then I'm going to have a pocket here. And I'm not going to have a closure because I think with the weight of the paper, these will stay down. That's my goal. I don't like to use magnets if I don't have to, just because they're kind of pricey. And if it stays down, then I don't need to waste my magnets. But so this will be the front. So I'm going to, when I put this on, the opening to my page will be on the left. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick these in my scoreboard, and I'm going to score to half so that I can attach it to the book. And I'm going to do that to all 3 of my pieces. Okay. And then I am going to take this one. What did I end up doing this one? This is 5 3/4 by 3 1/2. And I'm going to score with the 5 3/4 across the top at half, rotate it once. I'm going to do a half, rotate it one more time and do a half. And that will become a pocket. So let's do that page first, and then let's take a look at what I'm going to do to the back. I have an idea of what I'm doing. I just got to make sure it works. So here is my pocket. I am going to miter the tops. And I'm going to take out that square at the corner at an angle on both corners. And let's go ahead and burnish while we're working with this one. And I might do a thumb hole using the envelope punch board, just because of that shape of the punch will kind of remind me of maybe something like this. Not maybe, I don't know. I just think a circle's too, I don't want to use a circle this time. So let me get rid of the scraps here. And I'll put this pocket on probably last. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to miter the 1/2 inch on all 3 pieces. And then I'll burnish them. I really like using these dies. I always have liked having a decorative edge or border, but I'm not very good at cutting them when it's just the border piece and you have to tape it on. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but some of them are just like the outline for the edge, and I never can get things lined up straight, and I just have a heck of a time. So I kind of like using this one that's got the page attached to the decorative border. Okay, so it's going to look like this, and I might as well, I'm just going to go ahead and attach these before I attach them to the book. So I'm going to give them another good burnish, and I'm going to attach this middle-sized one on top of the large one, and I'll take it all the way to the edge. Now, it just so happens, seriously, I didn't even think about this, but my pages are 4 3/4 wide. That's exactly what this die was. So it was meant to be, and it would be nice if this, oh, it's starting to come out, it's glue. I have a love-hate relationship with this glue bottle. Okay. So you can use your scoreboard. If I turn this sideways, I can bump it up again. I have the 1/2 inch tucked under, bump it up against the edge here. Let me take this out. Oopsie. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Oh, that might make you dizzy. Now I gotta see if it's lined up. I am so sorry. That was probably really uncomfortable to watch. Okay. Oh, yeah. Let's go ahead and bump it up against the edge of my scoreboard so that I can line it up correctly. And I want to make sure it's lined up side to side. Okay. And I'm going to open it and give it another burnish. If you have any excess glue, wipe it up. Okay. And now I'll put the last one on top, the smallest one on top of the medium-sized one. I think I might do it this way, just like a waterfall. Perfect. Turn this around. So I think if I burnish it enough, it will lay down. I just haven't. And once I get the weight of the paper and any embellishments that I might have. If need be, you know, I can put a magnet on. Maybe I'll have to, I don't know, because I don't want that popping up like that. Okay. Yeah, I might do a magnet, I don't know. Okay, so I have it open on the left because it's going to attach to the book. And I'm going to just place that like so. Okay. And I'm going to go to the edge. And I got to make sure it's lined up side to side also. Get rid of any excess glue, give it a burnish. Okay, I like the look of that. And then now I'll put my pocket over here so that when I open it, I can store some things. So I'm going to turn it sideways. Originally, I don't know if I said this earlier because I'm recording this in more than one day. Originally, I was going to make this a baby's first Christmas album, but I just don't, it's not going to turn out that way. It's the paper and the way I'm decorating is more adult. So there went that idea. I'm just going to do a regular Christmas album. Giving this a strong burnish. So yeah, I'm gonna have to do a magnet. So I'll put a magnet here and here, and then one here and here. I don't need to put one on this one to attach to the base. That one's laying down with no problem. But I will, I'm gonna write myself a note, magnet, the X, and then a magnet probably about here. Okay, so I'm gonna use 2 different magnets. So that's just going to be that page. Now, when I go to put on the paper, you'll notice that I can push it back and you'll see the red border, but you don't see the red on the sides. So this is stitched. So I'm just going to trim straight up on that stitch line, and that should give me the right amount of border. So let's see here. Let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to line up that stitch line in my cutter. And on this side. And then I'm going to, you'll see that it's straight there. I'm just going to take my scissors and kind of round it. Not much, just enough to make it look like, there we go. And then, let's see, what colors was I going to do on here? I think I was going to do this, and then this, and then this. Do I want it this way, or do I want it this way? I think maybe I'll do it that way. Okay, so that's what it'll look like. I'm going to measure the length now. And it's at about 2 5/8. So I'm going to cut this to, I'm going to go ahead and cut it to 2 5/8 first, just to make sure. So there's 2 1/2. I just want to make sure I don't accidentally cut off too much. Yep, I'll need to do a little bit more. Okay, and then I am inking also. So I'm just going to put it back in my cutter. Take just a hair off. Uh-oh, that wasn't good. Not happy yet. I want a little bit more. It's hard to measure because of the decorative pattern at the top. That should do it. Yep. So you can see I just cut it so that there was a light border there. I had cut on the seam, like the perforation. Now I'll ink it. I'm using the, oh, yuck. Sorry. I'm a mess. Let me try that again. I'm going to ink it with this. I got it at Country Craft Creations, but I'm not sure that they carry it anymore. I don't even know if they still make this kind of ink, but it's the Color Philosophy. It was by Prima. So I'll just do one page with you just to show you how I did it. And on the back, I'll do a solid. So I just am scooting it down a little bit. And it's not 100% perfect, but it works for me. Yeah, I like it. All right, so let's put some glue on here. And let's take a look at it before I push down and burnish it. All right, yeah, I'm gonna need a magnet. And then I'll just do the other two the same way. So I cut off the side seam and then I measure it and then I can glue it down after I have double checked my measurements, okay? All right, so let's talk about the back. So now it's gonna be open on the right. So my thought is to do a frame that lifts, that comes down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with, watch this first in case I have to adjust anything. These are 1 by 2 inch, and I have 2 of them. And I have a piece that measures 6, is that right? 6 by 7.5, okay? So on the 1 by 2s, we have 2 of them. On the 2 inch side, score it 1/2 on both of them. Okay. On the 6 by 7.5, put it in your scoreboard, and you're going to, with the 7.5 inches across the top, you're going to score at 3 3/4. Turn it so that your 6 inches is across the side, or across the top, score at 1/2 and at 5.5. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and burnish that 1/2 mark. So I want this to become a frame. So I am going to cut off at an angle. This is my top piece. I'm going to angle this to the score. Oh, that was the wrong direction. I meant to do it like this. Okay, and I'm going to miter the top. And I'm going to point down, angle down to the score. And I'm going to cut off these bottom pieces, okay? And I can just use my scissors, I hope. I'm going to cut to the inside of the score mark. Okay, cut off this side on the inside of the score. I should have different scissors, but okay. I'm I'm going to go ahead and burnish my 1/2 inch sides here. And I'm going to end up gluing this like so. I'm going to adjust my fold just a little bit. All right, so I wanted a 1/2 inch border around the edge. I'm going to cut out the center and I'm going to put acetate behind it. So what I did, the easiest way for me was to get my Tim Holtz ruler, and I laid the 1/2 inch mark on my score like so. This mark is my 1/2 inch, and then I took a pencil and drew a line. Line it up on the other side. I put the 1/2 inch. When I say the 1/2 inch, I put this mark on my score, and then I drew a line, and I did that to all 4 sides. So this one I just put at the edge of the paper, a 1/2 inch, drew a line. On the score, I put the 1/2 inch mark, and I drew a line, okay? And then I erased anything that overlapped. So now I have this rectangle that I'm going to use my X-Acto knife to cut out, and then I'm going to adhere some acetate behind it, okay? So get my knife, my blade, and I'm going to try and be very careful, and I'm going to line this up like so. That's hard. The lighting is weird. Okay, let's give it a try. Now, I did go a little bit too far. And then I can go back and erase my pencil marks. Okay. That works. Now this one, I'm going to put my blade so I don't cut too much. I did on the last one. Get it? Yep. And now the last one. Put my blade where I need it to be, bump the ruler up against it. All right, not bad. And there's one spot that I went over a little bit too much, but I can doctor that up with decorations and my pattern paper. So now go through and get rid of those pencil marks, if there's any that you can see. Okay, so let me show you how I'm just going to put score tape, 1/4 inch score tape on the back or on the inside so that the acetate can be adhered. Oh, I almost put it in the wrong spot. So you're going to cut your acetate a little bit larger than your opening. And I'll tell you what my opening is here in just a second. So this is now, after cutting it, and I'm probably, I probably cut it off just a hair, is 3 7/8 long. And the opening here is about 2 7/8. Okay, so then I'll cut my acetate a little bit larger than that, and then I'll just take off the backing and place my acetate there. Okay, then we can adhere the two sides to the back. And let me show you how I will cut my pattern paper. So I might do mine a little bit different than some. I want to decide what paper to use. Let's go with, I have, this should be, do I want green or do I want the packages? I think I want the packages. So if these measure 1/2, and they do, I'm going to cut these into 3/8 inch strips, which 3/8, the cutter I would use for that then is this one, because it has a good 3/8. I can see the 3/8 easier on this. Three-eighths. And I need 2 more pieces. This one's going to be the hardest. 3/8. Hope that's close. Okay. I have like 8 different cutters. Depending on what I need to cut, that determines which cutter I use. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my pieces on the 2 sides, okay? So I'm going to measure, I need a 1/8 of an inch border, top and bottom. So if this is 3 3/4, I'm going to cut the paper to 3 1/2. 3 1/2. And I want to get some decorative parts on there. 3 1/2. Okay, and I will ink it. And then I'll place it right here. So let me ink that and get that ready. Okay, and I'm going to need another one the same length, 3 1/2. And that's going to go on the opposite side. So I'm going to ink this. Okay, let's go ahead and glue those down. So that we have that 1/8 inch border, top and bottom. That's about right. And now the other side. Looks about right. So then what I do is I measure from the end to the end of the paper. So it ends up being, mine is 4 7/8 inches long. So let me cut this one 4 7/8. Okay, like so. And it looks like I need to trim it just a hair. That works. And then all I'm going to do is cut it at an angle. And that's going to make it look like an angled frame piece. Okay, so I am going to, sometimes this looks better if you use a different pattern paper than what I'm using. I have presents that are sideways, but that's okay. Let me get some more. But I like that angled look on the corners. Okay, so that will be up here. And then I need to make sure I measure my distance is the same down here. Actually, it's about the same. 4 7/8. And then I'm going to double check that it's the right length. And once again, I need to trim just a hair. And that'll work. I'm going to angle this one. And the opposite corner. I'm going to ink it, and then I can glue it down. Because I don't like it when, me personally, some people might, when it's just rectangular pieces on all 4 sides. I just kind of like that angled look down here to make it look like it's a legit angled frame. Okay, so I'm going to glue this down real quick, and then I'm going to, I think I'll just talk about the matting instead of actually doing the matting behind the picture. It's nothing too challenging. That's upside down. And just make sure it goes from one corner to the other corner. And now let's do the bottom piece. One corner to the opposite corner, like so. All right, so remember, we're going to put our acetate, we're going to remove the backing and put our acetate down, and then you probably want to put pattern paper here. So you would glue this, I would glue it down first, just because, well, maybe not. No, let's just go ahead and do the acetate, glue it shut, and then we can tuck a piece of paper down behind it, okay? So let me see if I can find my acetate, and we'll keep going then. Okay, as I'm turning my camera back on, I noticed that it was very cattywampus, so I apologize if it's been very crooked. I thought I had fixed it, so this is going to be one of those videos. Okay, sorry about that. I hope it wasn't too distracting. I'm going to go ahead and remove the backing. I did cut my acetate. I ended up cutting it 3.5 by about 4 3/4. Okay. Try and clean it off a little bit. And I'm just going to lay that down like so. Okay. So, oh, that's really dirty. I'll have to clean it. So the next thing is to close this pocket up, or this frame. And then we'll put the paper in the background. So I'm going to put on the 1/2 inch. And on this 1/2 inch. Tuck in those 2 sides, bring it up and over. And then I cut this the same, 3.5 by 4 3/4, and I'll just glue that and put it in like so. I don't need to ink it because you won't see the edges. Okay. And give it a burnish. Okay, so what I plan on then is on the back of this, I want this to be about right here, but I want to be able to lift it, pull it down so that you can put something underneath, okay? So our 1/2 inch pieces that we did are the 1 by 2s. We scored it 1/2. I'm going to go ahead and burnish that. And I have another one somewhere. There it is. I'm starting to get a mess over here. Notice I haven't put paper on the back yet. So I'm going to kind of lay this where I want, like so, and like so, so I know where to glue. Like that. Yep, I like it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put glue on the 1/2 inch. I want to make sure I've got this lined up the way I like it. And I'm going to take this to the bottom of the page. And I want it about right there. Make sure I got it right, yeah. Okay, and now I'm going to put the other one about the same distance from the end. Does that look about right? Okay, I'm going to put that one right here. That looks good to me. Give it a burnish. And then I'm going to glue those to the back of this frame. And then I can put pattern paper on the back. Okay, so it looks like I'm going to use my pencil here just so I can tell how far down I want it to go. So I'm going to say about here and here. Okay, so I know to put glue above that line. And then I'm going to lay these back down. Trying to even them out here, like so. Bring it over. Okay, that works for me. And now I might want to add something on the corner. I had something, I don't know. I'll put something on the edge of the frame. Maybe something like this, jolly, like so. I also have a snowflake that I took out from the ephemera pack. Maybe I'll put that somewhere. Okay, so that's what I'll do. Now, I don't have any paper on here, but I can go back and just glue some little pieces. Let me see what this measures. Mine are about 1/2 inch, so I do 3/8 by 7/8 strips here. And then I can pull this down and place my pattern paper here, and then I can just put paper here, and so I have more room to put pictures. Okay. Okay, so let me finish these front and back, and then we'll come back and do page 3. These are the measurements for page 3. This is the front. You're going to need a piece that's 7.5 by 2 1/4. Now when you see that I put a line right here, that just means this is the side I'm going to score on. So I'm scoring it at 1/2 and 3/4. So I just make myself a note by doing that. You're going to need a piece that is 7.5 by 5 1/4, 5 by 2. Let's do 2 of them that are 3 3/4 by 4 3/4. And 2 that are 4 1/4 by 2 1/2. So that's the front, okay? So let's go ahead and do our scoring. So I move these off to the side. We'll start with the 7.5 by 5 1/4. And let's go ahead and score that at, with the 5 1/4 across the top, let's score it at 1/2. The 5 by 2 pocket, we're not going to have the 1/2 inch pieces that wrap around, but I am going to go back and put in a thumb hole on this 5 by 2 pocket. The 7.5 by 2 1/4, I'm going to make 2 scores. One is at 1/2, and the next one is at 3/4. The 2 that measure 3 3/4 by 4 3/4, on the 3 3/4 inch side, we're going to score at 1/2. On both of those. And then finally, the 2 that are 4 1/4 by 2 1/2, place your 4 1/4 inches across the top. We're going to score at 1/2 on one end, and then 3 3/4 on the other. So basically a 1/2 inch on each end. And then with the 2 1/2 inches across the top, go ahead and score at 1/2, and do that with both pieces. So the 4 1/4 is a 1/2 on each end, or you can do a 1/2 and 3 3/4. And then on that 2 1/2 inch side, score it a 1/2. Okay, so now let's prep all of those pieces by doing our burnishing and any kind of cutting that we have. So let's go ahead with the ones we just did, and we're going to make those a pocket. And so you have the score on 3 sides. And when you do that to make a pocket, let's go ahead and miter the top. And so when I say the top, I mean the opposite side of the 1/2 inch at the bottom. That will be our top. And then you're going to take out the square in the bottom corners, and you take those out at an angle. Do that to both pieces. Okay. On the 7.5 by 2 1/4, we did the 1/2 inch, then the 3/4. On the 1/2 inch, we'll miter. So not on the 3/4. You'll leave that intact. Okay. Remember, nothing on the 5 by 2. And then on the 7.5 by 5 1/4, we'll miter those. Then we're going to go ahead and do all the burnishing on our score marks. Which one do I want? I like this one for burnishing. And this is actually going to be a flip that comes down. Okay, so the 1/2 inch is not going to be at the top on this one. It will be down at the bottom. So I'm going to score that 3/4 first. Sometimes that's easier. Sometimes. And now I'm going to go back and score the, or burnish the 1/2. So we do have a little bit of a gusset there. While I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to corner round these using the 10 millimeter. That off there. Maybe. There we go. Let's go ahead and burnish these pockets. And I will be using my punch board to make a little thumb hole on these pockets. You don't have to do that. You could also use a circle punch, and you can just leave it plain. And the last two that we scored at 1/2, I forgot to cut those. So we are going to miter those on the 1/2 inch, and then we'll burnish them. Clip it and clip it. And let's get that burnishing done. So we'll have one of these 1/2 inches on the left, and the other one's going to end up being on the right, just so you know. All right, so let's start putting a couple things together here. So remember, on our base page, this is the front, so it's going to be opening to the left, and we're going to be placing this 1/2 inch piece, or excuse me, this large piece on top so that it folds down. So let's go ahead and get some glue for that. And I can tell already I got something in my glue there. Doggone it. Why can't it always do this? Okay. And I'm going to line that up at the bottom, and I'm going to check the sides to make sure that it's straight. And I'm using my scoreboard as a way to help too. And then I'll open it up and get rid of any excess glue, which I usually have. Okay, and I'll go ahead and give that a burnish. Okay, so with this open now, I'm going to place this 7.5 by 2 1/4 inch piece on the top of the base page. So I'm going to glue the 1/2 inch down on the top. No glue goes on that 1/4 inch section. That's our gusset. I'm going to turn it around so it's easier for me to see. And I just want to make sure I line that up at the top and side to side. Looks pretty good, so then I'll give that a burnish. Okay. Next, see, it's going to look like that. And then this will come down. So on the next part, we're going to have one of these that has this was the 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. We're going to place one here, but before I do, I want to make sure that it's going to close without any gaps. So that's part of the reason why we have that gusset on the top. Okay, so I want to make sure that I lift it up just a hair. Don't cross that crease down here at the bottom. This one's going to go on the left. So I'm going to take it all the way to the left. And I'm going to just double check that I can close that without it puckering. Okay, and then I'll burnish that. You can trim off a hair too if you want to, so it's not exactly 4 3/4. But the gusset is what helps me so that it won't pucker. Okay, and then we're going to do the other one on the bottom. And so this one I need to make sure also that I'll be able to close it without it puckering. This one I might take a hair off. Nope, no I'm not. It'll work. Okay. Gotta love that dry fit because you want to make sure that you check it before you actually adhere it all the way down. So I'm turning it sideways just to make it as easy for me as possible. Don't want to cross that fold. And I'm just going to make sure, nope, I got to lift it up just a hair. So I can see a little bit of an overhang, so I am going to have to trim that just a smidge. That can't do that. But when I laid it down, it looked like it was puckering a little bit. So I have just a little piece here that I'm going to trim off, just a little bit. So I'm going to put that in my cutter and fix that. And let me get my scissors and make it nice and neat. There's hardly anything to trim, so it got kind of frayed. Let me see if that does the trick. Nope, I can see it. There we go. Okay, now this is actually going to become a pocket here on this page, but I do want that thumb hole. So to me, it's easier to put my pattern paper on there first. So let's go ahead and put these just off to the side for a second. You can corner round the tops of these if you like. I'm not going to, but it would kind of match the top then here. So we are going to also remember have that 5x2 pocket that we're going to center. And then we'll put something inside to keep that closed. We'll tuck in a mat of some sort. But again, I don't want to put this down until I put my paper on and do that thumb hole. But that will keep this flap down. Okay, so that will be, I'll go back to that in just a second. So let's work on the other side. So this is the back. And what you're going to need for that is 3 that measure 4 1/4 by 5 1/4. Now, on the next part, I'm going to have a little flap over here that goes up and down. And it's going to be 3 1/4 inches wide. But I'm using that Uniquely Creative die. And I cut it out because I liked this because remember we have that waterfall that has that same pattern on the end. And I kind of wanted to continue that. So I cut 2 of these out. And I want it to be 3 1/4 inches wide. So what I did was I took my ruler and I looked to see, okay, where would 3 1/4 be? And I noticed that if I go to the end of this little curve, then there's too much excess on that side. So I have to balance it out. And then we have these little like sewing marks, those little lines. And I'm looking to see so that I can cut it in the right spot. If it's 3 1/4 inches wide, it looks like it's going to be at the front of the second little like stitch mark. So I'm going to use that as my guide. So let's just double check at the beginning. Is that going to be about right? I think so. Okay, so I'm going to cut at the beginning. When I say the second stitch mark, I hope you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to cut it there. I'm looking at the stitch marks that are going horizontal, and I'm going to cut mine at the beginning of the second horizontal stitch. So I have this, okay? And now all I have to do is flip it over in my cutter and cut it to 3 1/4 inches. Okay, so it's going to be like so. Now you're going to need one that measures 5 1/4 inches long, and one that's 5 3/8 inches long. So this is the one that's 5 1/4. So on my cutter, when I put it in, I made sure that this longest point was at 5 1/4. Okay, so this piece right here, this one right here goes to the 5 1/4 line, and then I sliced it. So now this one I want to be 5 3/8. So I want this to line up on my 5 3/8 line. So there's 5 1/4, 5 3/8. And I'll slice that off. Okay, so that's something kind of new for me too. I haven't done it like that, but they should be pretty close. Oh yeah, oh yes, yes, yes. They lined up just perfectly. Okay, so let me get this die out of the way and let's get the back ready. So take your 3 pieces that are 4 1/4 by 5 1/4, and let's go ahead and put the 5 1/4 inches across the top and score at 1/2 on all 3. I think I want to, do I want to corner around these? I think I do. Where did I put it? There it is. So on the opposite side of the score down here at the bottom, I'm going to corner around at using that 10 millimeter one on the We Are Memory Keepers rounder. Okay. Now on the one that measures 5 1/4 inch long of that decorative one, that's 3 1/4 inch wide, just score at 1/2. Now this one I wanted a little bit of just a little bit of a gusset, so we're going to try the scoring at 1/2. But then I also want you to score at 5/8. I know that's really super close. And let's burnish those. So I'm going to do the 5 5/8 first. Then I'll go back and try and do the 1/2 inch score. Yeah, that's not always easy to do, but I just wanted a little bit of a gusset. So then these are going to be flaps like so. Okay, so let's put together the 3 pieces here. So let's burnish these. And I do want to miter those slightly at the ends. Clip it there. On all 3. Okay, so this is going to be just a little flat feature that has kind of like a waterfall on top of each other. So I'm going to glue one on top of the other, like so, so that they're all on top of one another. So I'll put some glue on the 1/2 inch. And I have my 1/2 inch pushed to the back, and I'm going to line this up. I just got glue on my hand. Then I'm going to kind of stand it up and push down just to make sure that it goes all the way to the end. Okay. And then we'll do the other one on top of that one. So I'm going to line it up first, and then I'll turn it upside down, and I'll push down to make sure that it is lined up just the way I want it. Okay, so remember, this is our front where it opened to the left. Now we're making sure the opening is on the right. And this piece is going to go over on the left-hand side. And then we're going to have this flap that goes up and down on the far side here. So you can pattern paper these first and then put it on if you want. So I want to go all the way to the top. I'm going to open up this flap just so I don't... And I'm going to go to make sure the bottom lines up, top lines up, side lines up. I'll open this up and give it a burnish. I do have some wet glue that I can see. Should dry clear. And I'm just going to burnish that again as hard as I can. And I'll lift up each piece, each flap, and give it another burnish. Now I'm not going to adhere these quite yet until we do our pattern paper. So I'm going to hold off on that. But that's going to be on the right-hand side. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to get our pattern paper cut for these so we can put the thumb hole in, and then we will attach them as our pockets. So remember, I'm going to attach these after I put the paper on. So I cut my mats 1/8 of an inch smaller. So if this is 2 by 5, I cut my paper at 4 7/8 by 1 7/8 instead. I did ink, and so I'm going to go ahead and glue this on, and then I'm going to make the hole, I call it a thumb hole, because it's going to be easier when I have tried to get it to line up by doing them separately, like cutting it out of the cardstock and then going back and doing it in the pattern paper. I can never get it to line up quite right. So to me, it's just easier to do it this way. You won't have that border around your opening of red, but that's okay. It doesn't bother me. So I'm going to go ahead and put that one on. And then these pockets are, I don't remember, once they're folded, 2, so 2 by 3 1/4. So 3 1/8 by 1 7/8 for my pattern paper. Again, I've already inked the edges. Okay. And the other one too. Same measurement. 3 1/8 by 1 7/8. Okay. So then I'm going to use the envelope punch board. You can use a circle punch if you want, or nothing. You can leave it the way it is. So I'll do this one first. So this was 5 inches. So I'm going to center this at 2.5. So this side is going to the 2.5 mark. So that made the opening, but now I'll go back and ink that part right there. Okay. So now the next one, I do have my 1/2 inches folded behind. This is 3 1/4. So 1/2 of 3 is 1 1/2, and 1/2 of 1/4 is 1/8. So you're going to add 1 1/2 and 1 1/8. So that's 1 5/8. So that's right here. And again, I'm going to ink. Again, that was 1 5/8 for the center. Okay. So then if we get our third page, when you open it up, this pocket can either go, you're gonna have one down here on this flap and one up here on this flap. So I'll just put this on real quick. Okay. So this does add a little bit of bulk. And just give it a good burnish. And then I'll do the other one on the top flap. Give that a burnish. And then you can put the cut-aparts in there because our pocket is 3 1/4. It should fit a regular, I haven't cut this off yet, but it should hold a regular cut-apart, and it does, okay? Now when you mat this, again, you'll go 3 1/8. You don't have to go all the way down with your pattern paper because, I mean, to me, that's kind of wasting it a little bit. So as long as you cut it so that it's below the opening, that should be fine. So I'd probably cut mine about 3 1/2 inches long. Okay. And so that's done. Oopsie. So before I can put this on, I also have to put pattern paper on this, okay? And then all I'm going to do is put glue on 3 sides, and I'll center that like so, okay? So, but I have to put my pattern paper on first. So now the challenging part. On our book, where did I put them? We have these flaps, okay? Remember, one had a 1/8 inch gusset. The one with no gusset will go on the bottom. So I want to cut out paper that's going to have that same design at the end. So what I did was I cut some gold paper. Again, this is from Country Craft Creations. I don't know if they still carry it, though. It was a Sizzix brand. I got it when I was actually there a couple years ago, probably. But they do have other glitter paper. And so if this is 3 1/4, I cut the gold 3 1/8, and the cut apart is 3. This is 4 3/4, so I cut the gold paper 4 5/8 long. And then I glued this cut apart down lower so that when I cut it, it'll be the gold that's up here, so I don't really cut the cut apart, okay? So then what I did is I put some tape on my die. I'm gonna turn this upside down, it's easier for me. And I laid it down and I just eyeballed centering it. So what I do is I put this all the way down, the die all the way down to the bottom of the gold, and I look to see how much space is here and here to see if it's even. And it's pretty stinking close the way it is. So I'm going to count that as good. I might have to, hold on. And now I'm just going to put that tape on to hold it in its spot. I'm going to run it through my cutter. Make sure it stayed. I did it on the other one first just to make sure I could get it to work. Now I ran it through once, and even though it's double layer, it still cut just perfect. So then I'm going to take this off the die, carefully take off that washi tape. Take off that excess like so. And if it's not perfect, I can live with it, but it should be pretty stinking close. I gotta line it up here. Yep, pretty close to me. Okay, so I'll glue that on. It's not that it's tricky, it's just that you have to have patience and line everything up just so. And then I'll glue this. I need new plates for my die cutting, my Sizzix really bad. Okay, so I'm gonna line it up here. And it's off just a hair. Okay. Try that again. It's not perfect. Maybe if I go a little higher. I did better on the other one. Okay, let me burnish this down real quick and then I'll show you the other one. So then when I did this one, I made sure that I put the cut apart closer to the top, not the bottom. And so it's gonna look like this on the page, okay? So let me glue this one down first. And it's going to be right up against this right here. Okay, so you move it all the way over as far as you can get it. I'm going to go ahead and taper this one edge, but not the other, because this is the one that's on the outside. I might have to go back and put some more glue on that. And I'm going to leave this closed just so I can make sure that it lines up correctly all the way to the edge. Like so. I'm going to open that up. Okay, and I'm going to turn it upside down. I'll put glue on the 1/2 inch and I'll do the same thing at the top. I'm going to open this flap just so it's a little bit flatter. I still need to miter the outside one. Okay. I'll open that up and give it a burnish. So that's what this side will look like. And now we just have to mat this side. Now, when we do this, you're going to want to make sure that you have, this will have a piece all the way across. And I'm just going to use the same piece. I'm not going to like divide it. So one long piece here. I'll probably do the front and the back. Now when I do this, I'd go 1/8 of an inch smaller again. So these were 4 1/4. So I'm going to cut this 4 1/8 wide. It's 4 3/4 long. So I'm going to go 4 5/8 tall. Okay. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that would be hard for you to cut. If you just go 1/8 of an inch shorter, everything else should be pretty easy for matting. So I'm going to go ahead and do my matting, and then I'll come back. As I'm matting, if I see something I think, oh, that might be challenging, I'll show you on the video. But I think most everything else is pretty much a rectangle. With maybe I have to do the corner rounders, but that's not a big deal after you cut it. 1/8 of an inch tall, shorter, and 1/8 of an inch wider. Shorter on each the length and the width. Sorry. Okay, so the only part that I might come back and show you then is just centering this, which is not hard, but after I put down my pattern paper. So I will be back to show you how I did the decorating at the end. Now, I do have some winter dies. Some of them I got from their Echo Park ones from the past. Some of them are not, and I don't know which is which. So I do want to tell you though, on this one, this die, I had taught a class in Utah for Country Craft Creations using some graphic 45 paper, and this was one of the die cuts we used, and I just had some extra, so I put that on here. I'm pretty sure that this is an old Tim Holtz deer, so I apologize for using that. It's not at the store. But I did have it from one of the projects that we did for one of the retreats. So, all right, let me get some work done here, and then I'll come back. I'm going to do the front inside cover and the back inside cover exactly the same. So I already did the back. It's just a simple pocket. I just wanted a place to put extra pictures and photo mats. So it's nothing too special here, but let me give you the measurements and so we can do the front inside cover. So the book is 8 inches, so I went 7 7/8 for the width, and so you would add 1 inch on each side, so that is 8 7/8, and then I did 4 inches for the height, so that when you take a 1/2 inch off, it will be 3 1/2. Okay, so let's go ahead and score that, just like a simple pocket. So with the long side across the top, we score at 1/2. We're going to give it 1 rotation. We'll score at 1/2. One more time. And at 1/2. Can you have too many pockets in an album? No. Okay, so let's cut off our normal cutting for a pocket. Mitering at the top. And cutting off the square at an angle. And burnishing this. I cleaned up, so there we go. I love this mat for the Score Pal. And this is an old one. I just can't, I have a hard time. I have a new one, but I don't want to get rid of this one. I mean, there's some glue bumps. I've had this one, oh my gosh, how many years? I can't even, probably 8, 10 years. I don't know. So I have a new one, but I'm like, well, this is a perfectly good one. I can't throw it away. Okay, so then your paper is 7 3/4 by 3 3/8. Yeah, I already inked it. I'll go ahead and put this on before attaching it. It's a little bit easier. And of course I had my pin in there, so I have to dislodge whatever's in there. All right. Go ahead and put that on. Okay, and you would do 2 of these, obviously, if you're doing the front and the back the same way. And you'll notice I'm going to use a cutout, but I am going to trim it a little bit so it's a little bit smaller. And I put a flat back, one of the Brad adhesives on there, and one of the flowers from Uniquely Creative that I got with my design team kit. So let's just do a real quick dry fit first to make sure it doesn't go over. Okay, you don't want it to go over that fold. Okay, pinch in the sides. And that looks good. I already put my front cover on, so I don't want to push down too hard. Make sure you get the corners. Okay, so now I just took one of the cut aparts and I cut it down to the size I liked. This is a little bit different size than this one, but that's totally okay. And this one's going to go off on this side, the opposite of what the back one does. And then I will also put, I like to adhere my flowers with the hot glue gun. So let's see, it went in about that much. So I don't want this corner to have any glue. Okay. Push that down where you like it. I did mat it on gold, you can see. And I'm going to heat up my glue gun so I can glue on my ivy. Isn't that what you call it? Holly, I mean. Holly. And let's see, because I have this one, I want one on here. I don't like that one with it. The red, the poinsettia. I kind of like that little Nutcracker guy, so I'm going to put him on there. And I do like to put a little bit of glue on the back of these just for extra adhesiveness. Try and straighten him out a little bit. Wrong way. Oh, too much. There we go. Now this piece, you don't have to go all the way down to save paper. So this is 7 3/4, and I think I went 2.5. Yep, 2.5. And you just want to, again, do a dry fit to make sure that it will tuck down in there. And it does. Okay, so let's glue that in place. And because I used red paper for my base, I didn't really use much of this burgundy at all because I thought it kind of clashed with the red. had I used a different color of base paper, it would have been fine. Okay. Go down a little bit. No, it's too low. Oh my gosh, why am I having such a hard time making that even there? I should have waited to do my front cover, but I got antsy and wanted to make sure I had the right paper that I wanted to do the cover. All right, it's too bad I don't have something that's long and thin here, but so let me talk to you a little bit about the cover. So I did matte in the gold, and I did 1/8 of an inch smaller. So if this is 8 inches, 5 by 8, no, is it 5 by 8? No, I don't remember. Yes, it's 5 by 8. So I did 7 7/8 by 4 7/8 for the gold. And then this time I went down by 1/4 of an inch for the green. I found a cutout that I liked, matted it on red and then on gold. And I did put this up on foam squares. And when I went ahead and was going to put these holly pieces on, I felt like it still needed something. So I took some of the trim that I got in my kit, and I wanted that silvery side up instead, that cream color. And so I just kind of twist it like so. And then I take the Tim Holtz mini stapler and I just staple that so it stays. And I glued that down with the hot glue gun, and then I glued the holly on top. So that's how I did the front cover. The sides are all just the gold with the green on all of them. So this side is just the gold with the green, and I just glued a piece of ribbon going horizontal and vertically and then put a bow up there to kind of make it look like a package, and glued on the cardboard or the chipboard sticker of the little Nutcracker. Okay. So I still need to adhere. Let's see if my glue gun is ready. Sometimes it takes longer than others. Oh yes, I got it. Okay. I think I'll go about there. I have too much glue on there, but I might have to get some of that off there. Oh my goodness. Okay. So there's our front and back cover, and you can put the cutouts, I think maybe the 4 by 4s would go well in there. So I'll cut some of those and put those in. And so now I will show you how I finished the papering of the 3rd page. So I think I already showed you this one, I think. I can't remember. So I used a lot more of the gold than I thought I was going to, but it kind of made it a little bit more classy looking. So originally this was going to be a baby's first Christmas, but it's not. It doesn't look anything like a baby's first Christmas. So it's just a regular Christmas album. And then again, just put a little bow on here, and that's going to go like so. I used 3 of the brad adhesives and put a sticker on, matted it on green first. There's a sticker. On this side, I showed you how I did the matting, but on this side, I just made this into a pocket and just put a gold piece as a mat and a gold strip here, and then just regular paper. I mean, I didn't really add a whole lot because this is where you would put pictures. And then this one goes up. I just did white, white, and then I glued a strip in the center of the 2 gold pieces. The background is black, and then you can tuck things under here. All right, so there's the 3rd page. So now really the only thing we need to do is attach our pages to the book. So when you attach your pages, I really wish, I'm gonna have to hang that off the side so it doesn't smash the flower. When you attach your pages, you don't go down all the way to the bottom. You're gonna leave about 1/8 of an inch. So with our book like this, we're going to place glue on the top half of the hinge, and then we'll lay it down like so, and then we'll place glue along the bottom here, and then we'll put glue on the top half of this side of the hinge. We'll close it and we will push down really, really hard so that it stays. And you want to make sure it's lined up top and bottom too. Okay. Now I do have something that I use to kind of help me keep my pages from going to the bottom. I don't know where it's at right now, but I'll just do a dry fit first. Kind of to maybe draw, you can use a pencil as a guide as to how far down you want it to go. So yeah, I'd say leave about 1/8 of an inch from the bottom. That way they lay down better. Okay. All right. And I always start with the back and go to the front. So where is that little tool I use? Huh. What did I do with it? Oh, right there. So this is a broken one, but it'll serve its purpose. So this is 1/8 of an inch. So I just slide this in here like so. There's one for down there. And I have one for up here. And this just helps me to make sure that I don't put the glue too far down and that my page stays up a little bit higher. Again, the purpose of that is just so that it lays a lot nicer. So I'm going to go ahead and put glue on both the front and the back because I have that guide on. And I am generous with the glue because I do not want these pages coming out. And then remember, we're going to put glue at the bottom to close it up. So you can put a mat in the top. We'll leave the top open. And so I'm going to adhere mine by standing it straight up and down on either side of the hinge. Make sure you line it up top and bottom. You don't want to see that hinge poke out. And then we squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And then make sure you get the bottom to close. So I'm going to now spend a little bit of time clipping this at the bottom to make sure that it stays. I just am using these quilting clips. Some of these pages are pretty thick. And I'll just let that, oopsie, that one just broke. That's why when you buy them, you have like 100 of them because they do break sometimes. Okay, and I'm just gonna let that sit for a little bit and then I'll do the same thing for pages 2 and the first page. Okay, so I just really take my time pushing this together and giving it a chance to dry. I think I want a small one for here. Okay. All right, so I will come back and show you the finished book. If you want, you can go back and put pattern paper in your gussets of your spine. I don't always do that, and I don't mind the red. I think it's very festive, so I'll just leave that red for this book. All right, so I'll be back, and I'll show you the final result.